Welcome to this week's Cruiser Customizing Tip of the Week. We've got John from Progressive Suspension, and we're going to be talking about the differentiators between the 412, 430, and 440 shocks. Now, John, these three shocks are your three most popular shocks that you guys sell at Progressive Suspension, no?
Right. These are our most popular twin shock models, and kind of a good, better, best progression of features and benefits and price ranges.
So John, here in these series of shocks, there are three distinct different types of valving and shocking, I guess is what you call it.
Right. Each of our different series of shocks has its own unique valving. The 412 series uses velocity sensitive type of valving. 440 series uses our exclusive IAS valving, and the 430 series uses a deflective disc type of valving. And there's also some differences in construction. 412 uses a twin tube type construction, where the 430 and 440 both use monotube construction. Twin tube is a double wall type of construction, basically, where the monotubes are single wall. And the advantages of the monotube are that you can put a larger piston in a monotube shock, and which is desirable and gives you a little more control over damping and allows you to do more with the shock.
Okay, sweet. Now, here we have them lined up in really the good, better, best scenario.
Right.
Now, there's one thing that I would like to try to get on record or air out here, is that the Progressive Suspension good shock is really what percentage better than, say, the average stock shock?
It's a good bit better. It's maybe hard to put a number on it. Most cruiser type motorcycles have a twin tube type shock on them, which is similar construction to our 412, but those are air oil emulsion shocks, where our 412 is a high pressure gas nitrogen charged shock. And I guess one other thing to note is most of the stock shocks have about a 20,000 mile life, and all of our shocks are engineered with about a 50,000 mile life in mind. So whether you buy our 412, 430, or 440, they're all engineered to have a good long life, considerably longer than the stock units.
Okay. Now you talk about a 50,000 mile lifespan or life expectancy of your shocks. Now, when they reach that 50,000, can they send them in and have them rebuilt, or would you suggest a brand new shock replacement?
It would kind of depend on the shock. Our 430 and 440 series shocks actually have a limited lifetime warranty.
Wow.
So if you essentially keep them and ride them long enough to actually wear them out, we're going to replace those shocks. The 412 series has a little more basic 1 year manufacturer's defect type warranty, and that's not to say that the timer goes off at 50,000 miles and these are necessarily wiped out at that point, but we expect at least that kind of service life out of them. We've actually documented cases with many more miles than that on our shocks that are still in like new condition.
Nice. Sounds great. So what are the differentiators? What's going to make somebody want to buy a 430 or a 440 instead of the 412?
It really depends on what your needs are, how much you ride your motorcycle, a little bit on your budget. The 412 is a very good shock. It gives good performance. It's available in different lengths, as well as different spring rates, standard and heavy duty. And it's a good shock. It uses a little more basic cam type preload adjuster, which gives us about a 1/2 inch of adjustment. As you move up to, say, a 430 shock, you go to a threaded preload adjuster, which you can turn by hand, so it's a toolless adjustment. It's a little more convenient, and the threaded adjusters have about 7/8 of an inch, almost a full inch of adjustment range. So about twice as much adjustment, a little more convenient. A 430 shock has a little nicer styling, kind of a sculpted ends on it.
Okay.
And better valving.
Okay. Now you mentioned the heavy duty versus the standard springs on the 412.
Yeah, and actually that would apply to all of these shocks.
Okay. Okay.
And the standard spring is usually for a rider up to about 220 pounds, and riders over that, or riders who have, ride two up a majority of the time in a situation with heavier weight than that, would go to the heavy duty spring.
Awesome. Now, if somebody purchased a standard or a heavy duty shock and then realized that maybe they would like one or the other, can they send those shocks back and have them retooled?
You can send them back and purchase the other springs. Hopefully we can help you make the right purchase to start with, but sometimes your needs change, and springs are about $60 a pair, and we're happy to swap those out for you if needed.
Not bad. All right, John. One of the most popular things people do to their metric cruisers and Harley Davidsons is lower them to the ground.
That's right.
And a lot of times, the only way to get them lower is to get shorter shocks.
Yeah.
Now, that can cause problems with suspension travel and cornering, things of that nature. But if you're going to go that route, what do you recommend?
First of all, we do recommend buying a shorter length shock when you have a desire to lower your motorcycle. There's various brackets and other types of accessories out there, and usually those change the angle of the shock absorber, and which changes the leverage ratio and essentially throws the calibration of the suspension off. So we recommend going to a shorter shock absorber. One of the most common concerns is customers ask, if I put a shorter shock on my bike, am I going to have problems with the tire hitting the fender and so on? And the answer to that is no. We have to engineer all of our shocks to accommodate, all the equipment on a stock motorcycle. So considering that a customer has a stock tire, stock wheel, fender, belt guard, and so on, or chain guard on their motorcycle, everything should clear. So all of our shocks for a given application have to be engineered in such a way that they won't allow any interference or contact.
So here pictured we have just the chrome models out here, but all of these shocks are available in both black and chrome finishes.
That's right. The 412 would be available in an all-black finish. The 430 is a little unique. The shock has our chrome-plated damper body in it, which is unique to this 430 model, and this is available in a black and chrome contrast cut type finish, and the 440 is also available in an all-black finish.
Nice. So if you're looking to upgrade the shocks on your motorcycle, knowing whether you want a heavy-duty or standard spring is definitely important, and then the length that you want the shock. Now, John, is there a specific length for each stock manufacturer? So I noticed you've got the shocks that go from, say, 10 inches to, what, 13 inches?
Yeah, our shocks generally go in a pretty wide range of lengths in half-inch increments, and in most cases, well, in some cases, the stock length may be an odd, length as far as not falling on a half-inch increment, but we generally make 3 or 4 different length shocks for any given motorcycle.
So, John, what's the best way for the customer to find out what their stock length shock is?
In most cases, or in many cases, the stock length is called out on our website.
Okay.
Where a customer can go to progressivesuspension.com, look up what fits my ride. It's a real easy year, make, model type menu, and we'll show everything we make that fits that motorcycle. And the customer's stock shocks, the length will be highlighted in red. That's a good point of reference to start with. If a customer has an idea they'd like to lower their bike a half inch or maybe an inch, they know where they're starting from.
Nice, good deal. Any recommendations for trying to get more travel, trying to get more ground clearance?
We do occasionally have customers that'll do that. As a rule of thumb, we say the best ride and handling will come from the stock length shock on your motorcycle.
Perfect.
As you put a shorter shock on, you are taking some overall travel or stroke away, and at an extreme point, it will affect the ride of the motorcycle. We do feel that by putting a better shock on your motorcycle, that you are able to put a, say, half-inch or inch shorter shock on in many cases, and still end up in a win-win where the bike overall, ride and handling is improved and some lowering is accomplished.
Nice. So this is the shocking truth from John from Progressive Suspension. Now, John, there's a whole segment of the motorcycle industry where people have got stock shocks that have been on the bike for way longer than they should have been and are probably really worn out. What are the telltale signs that tell you if you need shock replacement?
Well, first of all, a general rule of thumb is most of the stock shocks last about 20,000 miles. Yeah, unlike brake pads and tires that have obvious visual signs of being worn out, shocks don't always exhibit any visual signs of being past their useful life. Some telltale signs that the shocks are wore out are they start bottoming more than they did in the past. Your bike kind of hops or skips over rough surfaces, or you're just not happy with the overall ride quality anymore. Because shocks wear out very slowly and gradually over time, it's not like you get up one morning and your bike has just changed.
Right.
So it does take a time sometimes to step back and kind of assess your motorcycle.
Awesome. So pre-ride check. If your shocks are too loose and saggy, good time for an upgrade.